I've been delaying this video because of the audio, so you might want to watch this with subtitles. My neighbor's dog won't stop barking. Jets are flying over my house, and there's construction in my neighborhood. There's nothing I can do about it. So, this is what we get. I'm using a local roaster. This is their dark roast. I've tried this recipe with 18 grams, with 20 grams, and with 24 grams, and I think 24 grams works the best. I keep everything under vacuum seal because I like to keep a couple of different coffees. I filter my water. Though it's not the best, third wave water actually makes the best cup of coffee here for me. I'm using a small cup, so I use the original funnel. I'm actually glad I got this on video. For this recipe, you want to preheat your AeroPress in your cup. There's a lot of thermal loss when you're using only 150 grams of water. The part that I'm glad that I got on video here is where I rip the paper filter. I'm using my Millwright hand grinder by St. Anthony's. I think it's fantastic. Nothing but good things to say about that grinder. I'm using a very fine grind for a dark roast. This is 20 clicks. That's espresso territory. So I want to plunge my preheat water, and you can see here I pull out the plunger too quickly because it slides there for a second. It rips the plunger. I've cautioned people about this over the years. I'm using Acer filters, by the way, for the bottom. Later I'm going to use a standard AeroPress filter. You'll see why. So I've replaced my filter. Everything's still preheated, so I only added a little bit of water. I apologize for the camera angle. Add my grind. I'm using this pen light just to show you what's going on inside because I have an older version. I made this. This is a small pipe connector. I sanded it down to fit snugly inside the AeroPress. It actually should be about 1 millimeter thinner in outer diameter. That way I can slide the paper filter down in easier. It will pinch the paper filter on the sides and then bring it back up. In my testing, I've also noticed that the vacuum it creates when bringing it back out of the AeroPress will bring the filter with it, so I've drilled a hole in the center to allow air. I do press it down a little bit, but that's in an effort to get a flat top on the grind. I'm not tamping or attempting a tamp. That's what the filter looks like in there. I want to pause it here and talk about what's the perfect setup in my opinion here. This is the perfect setup. You don't want anything else in the AeroPress for my method. Unfortunately, the CO2 release from the coffee grinds will create a lifting effect to the filter, and it will either put your filter up at 45 degrees and allow your coffee to get up and mix with all the water, or it'll make the filter float to the top entirely, and that's not what we want here. For that, I have created the next step, which may not be ideal. I actually think a stainless steel washer might be, but I would have to find the right dimensions. This is the next step, which works perfectly fine, though it may not be ideal. I'm using a 53 millimeter portafilter screen, for lack of a better term. I don't actually own a portafilter. If somebody wants to donate one to me, I would love an espresso machine. This is so that you can weigh down the paper filter. This is perhaps the most important step. Pouring your water slowly. I poured my water too fast. but I'm glad I got it on film because I know that that's what's going to be talked about. Don't forget to dump out the water that you've used to preheat with. And now, the filters and grinds combined are going to prevent water from dripping down into the cup, so you're going to want to press until you see droplets come out of the bottom. They will not continue to come out. You just want to make sure you get enough water in there to completely wet the grind. The CO2 escaping from the grinds will push your plunger up a little bit, and this, like I said, is the result of the CO2 escaping the grind. It did push both of my filters up a few degrees. Luckily for me, the coffee grind didn't come out and mix with the rest of the water. What you want to see is that clean water sitting on top. So what I did was I added a little bit more pressure to try and force some of that water down in effort to force the CO2 down and into the cup rather than allow it to continue to come up and lift my filter. I set my timer for 5 minutes. At 4.5 minutes, I press slowly at first to get the water through, and then once all of the water's through, I press quickly. This is my result. I've gotten more, I'm not going to use the word crema, I've gotten more bubbles from different roasts, more dark than light. But that's what the coffee looks like. I like to add freeze distilled water and MCT oil. That is your coffee concentrate, and it is as close as I've been able to get to espresso. If you use this method, caution, don't accidentally throw away your metal screen, and if you do it too quickly, your grinds will be hot.